Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. It's Bob Stewart and Ben Kinney, and we're here to talk to a friend and a top agent and a partner of mine in Austin, Texas. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Wendy Papasan. Wendy, say hi.
Hi guys.
We're particularly interested in people's stories and understanding where they came from and how they built the business that they have today. So Wendy, why don't we start with where's your business at today? And then let's talk about the story of how you got there. Does that seem fair?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm 10 years in the business, and we have about 20 people on our real estate team in 5 cities. We did about 350 transactions last year, which for us was about $2.7 million in revenue. And so that's where we're at. We celebrated our 1,000th client earlier this year, so about 100 clients a year, I guess, for the last 10 years. And I've been out of sales for about 2.5 years, and we're really profitable.
Well, what would you say that you're most proud of to date?
What I'm most proud of? I would say the thing that I'm most proud of is really the people that have been in my organization. So I've spent a lot of time working on the people side of the business, which is getting into business with incredible people. And so I've been blessed to have really great people to work with and learn from and, grow from.
Wendy, can we dig in on that a little bit? Because I think we'd all love to surround ourselves with great people, right? Like, what's your philosophy on that? Do you find them great? Do you just find them on the street and make them great? Like, how do you surround yourself with great people?
Well, no, I don't have a great people growing farm, but I think one of the things that a leader does is it helps. We help our people learn how to think, and yet I work very hard to get into business with really good people. So I think it starts with having that as a goal, right? And understanding how to find wonderful people. And so I have a goal to meet with 2 talented people every single week. And that's been on my goal list for many, many years. And even when I was in production, and I see a lot of, especially top agents, they struggle with that because they're always in the business and they never have time to work on the business and master kind of the hiring and training side of the business. And that's always been my focus. Because I'm a team player. I have never wanted to do it alone. When I was doing real estate by myself, I thought it was lonely. And so one of the great things about building your own business is you get to choose who you come to work with every day. And I like to work with really smart, talented, successful people.
How often do you think that you hit that goal of meeting with 2 new talented people every week?
Every week.
Every week? For how long?
At least 5 years, probably. Yeah, I mean, obviously I go on vacations and things like that, and some weeks I don't do 2, but then the next week I'll do.
I assume it's probably a lot like Ben, where you're not necessarily meeting with somebody that you're like, hey, I'm going to hire this person next week or even next month. I mean, a lot of times you're just fostering these relationships and maybe they blossom into something way down the road, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think even at any stage of the business that you're at, you want to just constantly be looking for talented people and thinking about people who can come into your world. So every client that you have, every coffee you go on, you're always just thinking like, could there be a fit for this person someday? Because I've met with people and nurtured them for a year before I've ever even had a spot for them in my organization.
And sometimes it takes that long to even get to know them and feel like they're a good match for your world. So
yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Before we dive too much into that, let's go back a little bit. Because one of the things I've really respected about how you built your business is you've managed to maintain decent children who are smart and happy and a good relationship with your husband and building wealth and taking time off. And a lot of people don't. They sacrifice those things in their lives in for that search of that high production or that high business. So let's go back to the very beginning when you started and walk us through from there to here.
Sure. Well, to be honest with you, my goals were pretty low at the beginning. My I really got into real estate to save money on investment properties because I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 5 years, raising 2 young kids. And then when my son turned 5 and was about to start kindergarten, I thought, well, what's next for me? And I'd been doing the landlady thing. So we'd been buying some properties and renovating them. And so I thought, well, I could get my license to save money on investment properties. So that first year, my goal was, I found my first 411. It was so low. My goal was to make, guess how much that first year?
Ooh, I don't know.
I guess it's really low. It was $15,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty low.
Super low.
Yeah.
And but what's interesting about that is I hadn't been making any money, and so at the time I thought, well, $15,000, I could buy another rental property with that. And my goal was really to work part-time. And so that first year in real estate, I ended up making over $100,000. I sold 18 houses that first year, working part-time. I was still picking up my daughter at 12. And it was, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was easier than I thought it was going to be. And that was more money than I'd ever made because the most I'd ever made was working for the state of Texas. I made about $42,000. So that first year I made about $85,000. So I essentially doubled my income that first year working part-time. So I thought, wow, this is pretty awesome.
As my friend, what I know about you is you're always really honest and you're also really realistic. And I think you like to set a goal that you're going to hit and not just make up some shiny thing in the air. So great. So you get through your first year and then what?
So the gift that I got from Jay, my husband, of course, was that he didn't want me to be one of those crazy real estate agents who's working, 24/7. And so he really encouraged me to think about leverage. And that was not easy for me because I didn't grow up with the leverage mindset. I grew up in a small town in northern Minnesota, a lot of hardworking farmers. And so, but that really kind of, it was great that Jay gave me permission to do that. And so I really started thinking well, how can I leverage myself at home? Because I'd been a stay-at-home mom and really handling everything at home, all the laundry, everything, all the rental properties, all that stuff. And so I got some leverage at home. And then that second year, I guess in real estate, I got some help with contract to close. Actually that second year I hired a part-time assistant, which most people would think I'm only doing 2 deals a month. I don't need it. But again, I was still working part-time because my daughter was in daycare. And so that just allowed me to focus on the things that I was good at and really, really work on my 20% and not have to worry about the 80%.
Was that first hire, that's the first time you'd ever hired somebody? That must have been...
It was super scary. Yeah, it was really scary. And so what I did is I said, I think if I save up enough money to pay this person for 3 months, I will feel comfortable hiring someone. And I didn't know anything about hiring. And it's so funny because I didn't take career visioning or RSTLM or anything. I just said to Jay, I was like, hey, just walk me through the class, right? I'm sure he was rolling his eyes. And the nice thing about Jay is he's let me fail forward a lot. So I actually had a couple candidates and I hired someone and they were good for that first year because they would just do the tasks for me. So I would come in and hand them a list of things to do and they would do all the things. And then that next year I decided that I really needed someone who could be more of a leader. I didn't want to have to micromanage them. I didn't want to have to give them a list of stuff every day. And so that's when I hired my first operations person. That was full time. That was also scary.
And how'd your production change?
Well, that second year in business, I did 23 deals. And then when I got that first full-time person, I sold 55 homes that next year.
So that would take you all the way through year 3?
That's through year 3. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's quite an increase.
It's about triple. Yes. I went from about 3 million in volume to about 12 or 3 point something. Yeah. So it was about I tripled my business that year. And it was great because that person came in and they really helped me with all the systems. They documented all my systems. And so, that's also the piece of advice I got from Jay from the beginning, which is like really document your systems. And so that person came in, and for the first, 30 days, all they did was follow me around and document everything that I did. And so that became the basis of our operations manual. And we still update that quarterly, which is great because I see a lot of people who, everything's in the head, in the head of that operations person. And our goal here is that we want everyone, we never want anyone to be irreplaceable, right? If you've got someone in your organization that's irreplaceable, then you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah, and they can't ever actually be promoted either because they can't ever leave that job. So whether they leave you or stay with you, everybody has to be replaceable. Yeah, good point.
Exactly.
What was your biggest challenge tripling your business in 1 year?
Well, I think it was good in a way because my daughter was in kindergarten that year, so I had a little extra time. And then I did get a nanny for appointments in the afternoon, so that helped a lot. So I just had a little bit more time. And I think what was great about starting with such a compressed schedule is that it really forced me to focus on the things that matter. And I see a lot of agents, they start and they're full time and they're like, whoa, what do I do for, 8, 9, 10 hours a day? They just don't know what to do. So I was like really focused. And as far as my biggest challenge, I'm sure it was just doing the things, doing all the real estate stuff. I can remember the first day I had like three deals went under contract in one day, and it was a lot. It was stressful.
Yeah. So now you're into your 4th year. What happened?
So in my 4th year, I hired a really great, I got some buyer agent help at that point. And I hired my first buyer agent.
So up until that point, you had been driving out and showing houses all the way through your...
I think I had some showing help before then. I don't think I did 55 on my own. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I actually had an agent approach me in the office. This is like not how to hire your first buyer agent, but I had somebody in the office who was like, hey, can I work for you? And I was like, sure, why not? And that was pretty much how I hired that person.
That's how I hired my first people too, basically.
Yeah, I was like, great, I need some help. And then that 4th year is really when I started looking around for a leader on the sales side. And so I can remember going to a conference in Charleston, and I met a woman there who was doing 100 deals as a buyer agent on Aaron Armstrong's team, Brianna. And I thought, wow, it sounds a lot easier to have someone doing 100 deals than having 10 people do 10 deals each. And so I started looking for that person, and that's when I hired my lead buyer agent, who actually ended up being with me for 6 years and got promoted to listing agent. She just left me this year. We parted ways this year. And so that was great because she was a real leader. And at her peak, she did 89 buyer deals with some showing help. It was great.
It's interesting timing, Wendy, because the average tenure in a position of a very successful person, of a CEO or something like that, is 6 to 7 years. Mm-hmm. And at that point, a lot of people make these career changes. And the nice thing is your business is at a point that it's grown and it can handle change like that and actually continue to grow. So how'd they affect you that first year?
Well, it's great because I could focus on the listings, and I think I could focus on getting some of the systems in order, like getting my 33 touch together, getting just doing some more tracking, just some of those things that when you're doing all the business, it's really hard to focus on, and that's really important. And then just focusing on getting into business with good people. So I think probably it was about that time where I really started to take career visioning, which is Keller Williams' class on how to hire and train talent, and some things like that. So just really working more on the business. That's always honestly been more interesting to me than being a real estate agent.
Working on owning that business. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah.
So Ben always talks about how leverage isn't luxury, right? We don't leverage something away and then like go play golf. How do you kind of stay focused when you give something up? How do you kind of stay focused on putting that energy back into the business as opposed to like, taking a nap or getting your nails done or going golfing?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Well, and I think it's really, you have always have those people counting on you. I take it very seriously that I have a lot of families that have always counted on me to be the rainmaker and to lead generate and keep my eye focused on that. And so I think when you hire someone to take away, essentially you fire yourself. I tell everyone I fired myself from every single job that I've ever had in my business. And then when you fire yourself, you have to, again, dive deeper into your 20%. And I think it's also just having that awareness of like, what are you really good at? Like, what are your skill sets? And I know, or I've learned that the deeper you go into your 20%, the more successful you are going to be, because the least successful people in this world are the people who are doing lots of things all the time.
What is that for you? Like, what is that 20% for you? Or how would you verbalize that skill set?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think as the CEO of your business, it's always vision, financials, and accountability. And for me, I would add to that just getting into business with great people. And then as the owner of the business, it's always about lead generation. It's always thinking about how can we get more business? How can we help more people?
Our coach has always said, because Wendy and I have some of the same mentors, has always said it's lead generation for buyers, sellers, and people.
Yep.
So what did your production do in the fourth year when you added a full-time talent?
It went up quite a bit. I want to say it almost doubled that. I think we did 89 deals that year. And then Jen took over pretty much all of our buyer business. And then so we did 89. The next year we did 121. So that was, I guess, the fifth year we went up to 121. And me just focusing on listings and her really focusing on buyers.
What was the next major benchmark in your business for production or hires, or what was the next step?
I would say that probably about 4 years ago, I looked up and I realized, wow, I have a pretty small organization, and there's a lot of key people that if any one of them left, it would put me in a kind of a scary place where I would get the job back. And so I really got focused on growing the organization so that I could have a bench in some of those positions. And that's also really scary because you can kind of be in your comfort zone and everything's great and everyone's really happy and there's not a lot of change. And so I would say probably about 4 years ago, really getting focused on hiring a lot more people. And so that's really what I did. And then we've had a couple of key people leave this year who, had I not done that, it would have been tough. It would have been really tough to kind of survive. But now I've got multiple listing agents and multiple buyers agents and a great team of talent on the operations side that can grow into roles and things like that. And so, like getting to that point where you have that bench of talent it just helps you sleep at night, honestly.
Where's most of your business come from today?
So we're 86% business by referral.
Wow.
And of that is about 30% agent to agent referral business. So about $900,000 in GCI came from other agents last year. Wow. And the rest of that's past client and sphere. And then, 14%, we've got quite a few investors that we work with. We've got some internet leads, open houses, things like that.
Wow. What do you think the secret is to building such a strong sphere business? Because I assume it's not just your sphere, it's also your agent sphere, and everybody contributes that. So what do you do to create that culture in your team where everybody builds relationships and brings business to the table?
Well, I think it starts with hiring people who are like that, right? You hire relationship-driven people, and that's how you create a culture like that. And then at the same time, you want to have the systems and operations to love on all those people. So we have a really robust 33 Touch. We do a lot of events. We call around our events. We have investor seminars. We have a movie night. We have a ladies' night out, things like that, and just getting belly to belly with people.
Give me an example of a successful event you've done.
Well, I think the key to a successful event is doing the same one over and over again and figuring out how to do it better and better. So I would give the example of my movie night. And the last movie night we got 10 referrals from it, which for us is about $100,000 in GCI. And the movie night really doesn't cost us anything because we get our vendors to pay for it. But the first movie night we did, we got no referrals. And the reason was I don't know, I just didn't really think it through. So we had everybody come into the theater. I stood up there, I talked for like a minute, and then that was it, and the movie started. And I was like, okay, that didn't work at all. We didn't even like have any time to talk to anyone. So then what we did the next time is we had it at a movie theater with a bar attached. And we lied to everyone, and we told them that the movie started about a half an hour early, and then we like shoved them all in this bar. And so my whole team was there asking for referrals. And so we got a couple referrals with that one. And then we just got more and more proactive. So like on the last one, we said, if you can pop up a referral, we'll give you free popcorn when you're at the movie. And then when we came in, there was a big sign in the lobby, and so other people going to the movie was asking about it. We had like a fishbowl that said like, put your referrals right here. When we were checking people in, we were asking, and then when they came into the movie theater, there was something on their seat that said, who do you know? And then I was up there doing a really hard ask, saying like, hey, I know you love these events, and the reason we can do these events is you guys send us your friends and family, so take a minute right now and write down everything. And that's how we got 10 referrals at the event. But that was just over the course of doing the event 6 times. And what I see a lot of agents and people doing is they're just constantly doing different stuff. And if you're constantly doing different stuff, then you never get good at it.
I think that's really powerful. Like, you could have went to that first event. I think somebody with ego would have went to that first event, got up there, done their thing, and not had the self-awareness to be like, God, we weren't prepared, right? They'd say, oh, that didn't work. And they go on to the next thing, and they go on to the next thing, and they go on to the next thing. So kudos to you for having that self-awareness and that lack of ego to be able to say, we kind of messed this up, right?
Yeah. And being willing to actually just ask people for business and explain, this is how our business works. I think a lot of people don't think that we need their help growing our business, so they don't even think to do it. And we have to remind that customer, ask those questions to get them engaged and helping us. And when they do, they always feel good about it.
Yeah. Well, and success looks different than you think it does. It's really repeatable events done over time, and that's what yields massive results. And that's boring for most people to do the same thing over and over again, especially real estate agents who tend to like to do different things. They like to change it up. And I think the best example of that is my friend Shayna Moats, who was the Rookie of the Year in Austin for all of Austin, not just for our office. And I love her story because all she did was focus on open houses because she had a young daughter who was 18 months old, and her husband was an executive at Whole Foods. And what's great about that story is she just did open house after open house after open house, but she didn't actually get her first buyer appointment until her 35th open house.
Wow.
And then she went on to become Rookie of the Year and sell $10 million her first year in real estate in a very competitive market like Austin, where we've got 13,000, 14,000 realtors here.
Wow. How many open houses did she do in that first year? A lot, I bet. But I mean,
well, but I think she probably did 2 a weekend, but then it's really all about the follow-up. As you know, 70% of your success is in the follow-up, and most agents don't ever want to do that.
How many people you think came to your last movie night?
250.
How many were agent invited compared to like team past clients or your guys' database and sphere?
Oh, it's all our database. That's all that gets to come.
Do you think each agent brought 10, or do you think that you guys brought 100 and then each agent brought 20, or how do you think that worked out?
I don't know. We've definitely got some regulars. So I would say it's, probably about half and half, like probably just from our database.
We have a really important question.
We send the invite out and we get like 75 people that sign up right away now.
What movie did you guys watch?
The last one, it was really fun. We did Jurassic World, and we had 2 blow-up dinosaurs there in the lobby. So that was the other thing that was super fun. Yeah, we had these little plastic dinosaurs. We were throwing them all around the lobby.
I like the idea that you do it in a place where, like, your clients come, but, like, other people are just kind of there, right? And they get exposed to you guys in that environment as well.
And actually, the year before, we did Wonder Woman. And so I have a lot of women on my team, so we all dressed up as Wonder Woman. And we were all, like, milling around in the lobby. And then after the movie dumped out, there's that bar that's right next door. And there was, like, there's, like, musicians that play there sometimes. And so Dale Watson was there, and he's, like, a big 2-step guy. And so it was, like, a totally surreal Austin moment where there's this whole group of people who are, like, serenely 2-stepping in their cowboy boots and everything. And then all of a sudden, like, 13 women dressed as Wonder Woman, like, invade the bar. And then it was awesome because it was, like, all these cowboys dancing with Wonder Woman. And it was, like, this totally awesome.
You guys made, like, somebody was visiting Austin and just you made, like, their whole trip, right? Like, this place is crazy and weird and strange.
Right.
Like, Austin, it was everything that it was supposed to be.
Yeah, 100%.
That's hilarious. So you do some investment classes and meetings with your agents and with your sphere and database. Talk to us about that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so we do 4 investment events a year in our hub in Austin, and then some of our expansion partners do it as well. And we do 2 seminars, which we typically get about, at least, like, I think the most we've ever gotten is probably about 150 people that show up. But what's great about that is about half of those people are people we don't even know. So they're new to investing. And so we add, 75 people to our database. And so we do investing topics that are relevant to Austin. So we might do something like tiny homes, or a lot of people are putting accessory dwelling units like granny flats on their properties. And so we'll develop a panelist of specialists, and I'll do the interviewing. And honestly, for me, I'm just always curious about different things. So the last two ones we've done, I've just been curious about the topics, and I figured everybody else would be too. So I just invite all my friends to come. And then we do investor happy hours, which are super easy. They're just like quick meetups. They don't cost us anything. They're just at a local restaurant, like out in the patio area. And, we'll invite vendors. We'll invite people who are experienced at investing. We'll invite people who are new to it. And those typically, you might get like 30, 40 people at those. And they're just like super easy. And again, just it's really, like, events are great, but it's really the marketing of the events that are really powerful. And so I tell my agents, hey, if you have a buyer seminar and no one shows up, and you've done your marketing and you've contacted, 100 people, then it doesn't really matter, because everyone knows that you're out there in real estate and things like that. And so with the investor seminars, I think that's a lot of it too, is just letting people know that we're investor specialists. We're passionate about helping people build wealth through real estate.
And what's the format of the education when they're in there? What do you guys talk about?
The educational seminars, yeah. we just usually do a panel of specialists, and so we pick a topic, like I said, like tiny homes or granny flats, and I'll just do the interviewing, and we'll have our lender partner there who usually brings like snacks and food and things like that. And then afterwards, it'll just be a Q&A where we're all standing around drinking beer and having a glass of wine and just talking about investing.
And are you asking for referrals at those events as well?
We're not actually. I would say no. I mean, I am certainly doing it one-on-one as I'm mingling with people, and do you want to, are you interested in helping your kids pay for college 20 cents on the dollar? Like, I ask that a lot. buy an investment property for 20% down and have complete strangers pay 80%. So like we talk a lot about it there, but probably not like right in front of everyone. So yeah.
I don't know exactly when I met your husband, Jay, but it was probably, I don't know, 10 years ago or something for the first time. And him and I became friends, and then led to you and me becomes friends. And now we own property together and are all great friends. And one of the things that you guys taught me early on that it never occurred to me, but was tracking my net worth on a monthly basis and spending time every month to sit down and do that. And from what you guys have told me, you guys don't only just do that for yourselves, but you also do that with your agents and maybe even some other more key people in the database in your sphere. So talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So, we actually got the idea from you, which was one of your goals was to help people become millionaires. And so I thought that was a great goal. And so we put that on our goals as well, because we for sure got a gift the day we joined Keller Williams, which was to think bigger and think about how to prep for the future and really learn how to make money. And so the result of that was me really saying like, well, did we meet our goal, right? Because it's one thing to have a goal. It's another thing to track it and be committed to it. And that's why I think I sent you a couple text messages like, hey, how many millionaires have you created? Do you actually know, right? Yeah. And so I just thought, well, we need to figure out a way to actually track it. And not because we want to have like, we've created this many millionaires. I mean, that's awesome, but really because we want to help people become millionaires. And so I said, why don't we create a format where we can help people learn how to manage their money, essentially, and invest. And so we created what we call the Hot Millionaire Club. And we meet once a month as a team, and not everybody on the team shows up, but everybody's welcome. And we actually stole the idea from Tim Minix, who's an OP in like far West Texas. And what that looks like is people have to commit to a few things. They commit to tracking their net worth on a monthly basis, and that's all very transparent. So we share that with everyone, and everyone like basically says what their net worth is every month. And that's kind of scary, especially since our net worth is a lot higher than most everyone on our team. It's scary to be like vulnerable and all that stuff, but it's been very powerful for us as a team. And then we also have to come up with net worth goals. So it's one thing to track it, but it's another thing to say, hey, I want to increase it. And so we have 5-year and 1-year net worth goals. And then we have like, what is the thing that's going to help us meet that net worth goal? Because, if you've got money in the stock market, it's going to increase by a certain amount every year typically. But I mean, if you have a bigger net worth goal, what's the one thing that's going to get you there? And then we just hold each other accountable to it. And it's been awesome. It's been really great. It's been great for us personally too, just to like be much more, just have it much more on the top of our minds about very purposefully growing our wealth.
You said we hold each other accountable to it, but it's almost like you don't have to, right? Because when you create that openness and everybody's sharing like that, it creates that built-in accountability.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that is what it is. It's just public accountability. Yeah. We're not like texting each other all month.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have the results been?
The results have been amazing. So we've averaged 3.8% increase in net worth every single month over month in the last 8 months. So it's really going up. What's that?
Across the whole group?
Across the whole group with us taken out.
Wow, that's like an annualized 30 or 40% increase.
A lot. Yeah, because a lot of people are paying down debt.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, doesn't it? Yeah. I think you and Jay were investor-minded from the beginning, and people a lot of times they think that you need to be making a ton of money before you start making investments. But you guys weren't making a ton of money when you were first buying your first properties. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So the gift that we got is when Jay started at Keller Williams, he took a class. Keller Williams really encourages people to become business owners and to think about investing. And so there was a class at KWRI that Mo Anderson was teaching, and Mo was the former CEO of Keller Williams. And it was a class on how to read a P&L, how to read a profit and loss statement. So as luck would have it, Jay showed up and he was the only one there from the whole company.
Wow.
And what I love about that story is that Mo could have canceled it. She could have just said, listen, this is not worth my time. But she didn't do that. And so I never worry that there's enough people in any class that I teach, because I know that the right person's going to be there. And so she ended up talking to him about how to read a balance sheet. And then it turned into a discussion on how to essentially read your personal balance sheet and how to track your net worth. So Jay came home from that and he said, we need to figure out what our net worth was. And so we did. And it was about $2,200, which is great because for most people, their net worth is negative. They're in debt.
You guys are richer than half the country at that point.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah.
But for me, it was appalling because I thought, wow, Jay and I collectively have worked over 25 years together because we weren't young. We were 30. And I was like, wow, that's like 25 years of work. We only have $2,200 to show for it. Like, that's about $100 a year. And I worked hard. I'm a hard worker. So is Jay. And so then Jay said, let's come up with some big goals. And so I honestly thought they were all crazy because I came from like a scarcity mindset. So I grew up, I didn't know anything about money. Most people don't learn about money. We didn't talk about money as a family. And I always thought the way to get rich is to save money. Because my dad and my grandmother and grandparents were very thrifty. And so that was always my thought. And Jay, luckily, he has more of an abundance mindset. So he was always like, let's make more money. And now I'm more like Jay. I'm like, yeah, let's make more money. But at the time, I was like, ooh. And so we had these huge goals of becoming net worth millionaires in 10 years from $2,200, own 10 rental properties, and have $75,000 in passive income or, income we didn't work for. And I honestly thought it was crazy. I was like, there is no effing way we're ever going to do that. That is really what I thought. That I was like, well, but I'm up for it. Sure, let's do it.
Did you keep those to yourself? Did you sit on those thoughts, or did you tell Jay you're effing crazy?
Oh, I'm sure I told him. Yeah. I mean, you know me.
Wendy doesn't have a filter. Like she just says how it is, right?
I wonder, like, okay, because sometimes you might, it might just be this kind of inkling in the back of your head, like, I don't know if we can do it.
I thought it was really crazy. And what's interesting is that for me, the last 10 years of my real estate journey, and I'm sure it's the same way for you guys, is your change in your mind, right? The complete 100% change in your mindset around what's possible. And even 10 years ago, even though Jay had been inside of Keller Williams for 10 years and his thinking was growing, it wasn't really until I joined KW that I really, really started to feel and understand that. And I mean, proof of that is that my goal was so small that first year. It was only $15,000. I mean, that's so small. I'm married to the co-author of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And then really the last 10 years has shown me that anything is possible. Even the craziest ideas are possible, but that's just like month by month, year by year, year by year, year by year, that somehow growing your mindset and really just surrounding yourself with other people who have, big crazy thoughts and ideas and are making it happen. And so I would just say, if you're not surrounding yourself with big thinkers, then the fastest way to think bigger yourself is to surround yourself with amazing people. And that's why you attract so many people, Ben, is that you have such a big vision for your life and for the people, and you want everything big for them, and it's a huge gift, to be around people like that.
When you want to know what I hear out of this, so I have small children, and as I'm listening to you talk and realize like you were around Jay for all these years, right, where he was exposed to Keller Williams and this big mindset. It was your like upbringing that kind of kept you in that scarcity mindset for a while. And so like for me, like ringing bells, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't have my kids in a scarcity mindset. Like I've got to be training these children young, right? Like that's where my head goes when I listen to you talk about kind of where you came from and your exposure to a big mindset, but it took you a while to kind of buy into it.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, the way public school works is it is kind of, it doesn't train kids to think bigger. It really doesn't. And it teaches people that failure is bad. Because if you think about it, what do we avoid getting more than anything in public school? Yeah. We don't want the F, right? And what does F stand for?
Fail.
We want to avoid that at all costs. Right.
Our public school system was built back in the 1920s, I think, by like the Henry Ford generation to train us how to be, factory workers, basically.
Yeah, and there's actually a really good book called World Schoolhouse, and it was built on, our public school system was built on a Prussian model. So from Prussia, which was this idea of sit down, memorize stuff, do what you're told, walk in a line, all that stuff that actually helped America in an unbelievable way because it helped us launch the Industrial Revolution. Like it was amazing for America. And now we have this old school system and we've got this new economy where 50% of the kids that are, in middle school right now are going to have a job that doesn't even exist.
Oh.
And they're gonna have to be a 1099 employee. They're gonna have to, become a real estate agent or do programming or whatever. And they have to learn how to learn. And that's not what our public school system does. It does not teach them how to learn. And we are doing our kids a big disservice by putting them in a system where it's all about memorization and we're not teaching our kids how to think for themselves, which is really the skill set that kids need to have in the world right now.
I got to have breakfast with a friend of mine who I'm sure you guys all know, Anton Stetner, who runs a large team and owns Keller Williams offices, and great guy and a good heart. So I asked him this morning, I said, well, what's your routine at night? And he said, he talked to me about his routine, but he said, I go into my kids' room before bed and I ask them, how was their day? What did they fail at? What do they want to do better? What's their goal for tomorrow? And he goes through this conversation. And at the end, he says, I love you. And remember, Stetners never give up. Stetners continue going. And he has this 3 or 4 things that he says as an affirmation to them every single night. And I can just imagine how different we would look at things if our parents night reminded us that we don't give up, right? Or whatever that message that parent really wanted to share would be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Wendy, if we were going to go to bed every night with a piece of wisdom from Wendy, what would Wendy tell us to say to ourselves every single night?
Well, I was just going to share. I mean, this is not exactly an answer to your question, but just because I wanted to address what Bob was saying about having young kids, like a game that you can play with your children is the Think Bigger game. And I don't know if we got this from someone or if we made it up ourselves, but it's a really fun game that you can play at the dinner table. Yeah, there we go. Think bigger.
Get out of here. Like, this is planned. Did you plan that?
But here's how you play it. So you're at the dinner table and one person starts and they just say that they're going to go do something. So Bob, you say to your kids, okay, I'm going to go to the grocery store. And then one of your kids says, and then you all say, think bigger. And then you say, I'm going to go to the grocery store riding on an elephant. Think bigger. okay, I'm going to go to the grocery store riding on an elephant with roller skates. Think bigger. And then if
I'm going to go to the grocery store riding on an elephant with roller skates with jets escorting me.
Yeah, see, I think you'd be really good at this game.
I love it. This is way better than the why game that my son Chase plays with me.
Why?
Oh, yeah. Why? Yeah.
So when you tried to not answer my question, and then you answered my question because what you said was, before bed, everybody should ask the question,
Yes.
how do I think bigger?
How do I think bigger? Yeah, how do I think bigger?
Well, I know you have an appointment coming up, and I also know that you were one of our first Brivity customers. You're one of the first people that adopted our technology, and you've been a loyal friend and customer and user of our technology from the very beginning. And I really appreciate that because it's your guys' feedback that helps us. What are some of your favorite things about Brivity, or some tips or things that you would share with our people today?
Sure. Well, what I would say about Brivity is that one of the great things is it's become really customizable, and so a lot of the roles and, you can add as many roles as you want, as many dates as you want, and that's been really handy, I know, for our admin team, just to create a product that's really custom to us and what we do. And then the other thing that I love is that your auto plans they've really come a long way, I would say, in the last, 8 months or something like that. And my team is like all in on that and really using that. And then it's just like really user friendly, because the great thing about Brivity is that your team uses it, right? And most of the other products that are out there, it's just a developer in their office trying to figure out what a real estate team would really like, and you guys are using it on a daily basis. And so just that constant feedback loop of
my mom calls me every day.
Speaking. Yeah.
I talk to your people too, right? I talk to April, and you guys give us great feedback on how they're using it and how we can get here to make it a little better. Yeah,
well, and that's also the great thing about it. It's like, well, if tech support at Brivity isn't responding, I just give him Ben's phone number and I say, text him and tell him you got an issue, and it really works.
Responses start happening at that point.
Now, we're probably the only technology CEO in the industry that puts his cell phone out to every one of our customers.
Yeah.
7 day a week, 24 hours a day.
Yep.
Any other final comments or thoughts or things you want to add?
Yeah, well, I mean, we love Brivity. I mean, gosh, we've been using it for I want to say since we started building our systems. And what's been great about it is that as we've expanded, it's been really expansion friendly, and we really enjoyed in all of our expansion teams. And so.
Where are those locations at, Wendy?
We have a team in Houston, one in Dallas, one in Minneapolis, and one in St. Louis. And so,
you're watching this and you want to help add to the 100,000 in GCI they did last year from agent referrals, those are your cities, right?
That's right now.
I would assume that Wendy is also hiring and looking for other locations. How do you choose a location when you go somewhere?
We're focused on Texas right now, to be honest with you. We're really focused on Texas, and because our culture is really important to us, and so having people that are able to drive here and really get to know each other is really important to us. So we're focused on Texas mainly.
Awesome. So how do people reach you?
Well, I can be found on all the social media sites, papasanproperties.com.
And how would you prefer to be reached?
Yeah, you can send me a Facebook message. That's probably the easiest way to reach me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for giving us an hour of your time today and contributing and sharing. I think people are going to get a lot out of some of your thoughts today. So.
Right. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Wendy, thank you so much. My children, thank you too. We're starting that game tonight. I think only one of them is probably old enough to play it, but that's a lot of fun. I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Bye, my friends.
Bye.
Bye.